script for what we'll see. But if you're walking forward, start with me.
There were roads I walked alone, with questions in my hands, looking for a brighter place across imagined lands. There were nights I held my breath, afraid to let things fall, believing if I stayed too still I'd never move at all. I have loved and let it go. I have stayed and turned away, yet I have stood beneath the rain and still chosen day. Each goodbye carved something new, each beginning left its mark. Every loss became a window, letting sunlight through the dark. I used to search for meaning somewhere far beyond, but meaning was the quiet pulse that kept me moving on. You arrived not as a rescue, not as something to complete, but as a steady presence where my restless rhythms meet. You didn't promise ease, you didn't swear forever. You simply stood beside me and said we'd learn together. And suddenly I understood what the years had done. They shaped the heart I carry now. They led me to this sun, where all the light begins is not beyond the hill. It's here inside the breath we take when everything is still. Where all the light begins is not a distant flame, and it's in the way we say each other's names without the need for fame. I am not the girl who trembled at every shifting ground. I am not the one who waited to be finally found. I am built from every chapter, almost every scar, every quiet act of courage that brought me where we are. And if tomorrow asks for strength, if seasons change their tone, I know I won't be standing as someone overthrown. Because light is not a miracle, it's practice every day. It's choosing hope repeatedly when doubt is in the way. I see it in the way you listen, in the way you let me grow, in the space you leave around my dreams so they have room to show. There is no perfect ending, no final flawless, just this living, breathing moment, bright and clear between. Where all the light begins is in the life we build, in laughter after honesty and promises fulfilled. Where all the light begins is not in grand display, it's in the simple truth we choose to honor every day. I don't need a louder sky or stars that blaze above. I have everything I searched for in steady chosen love. So let the years keep moving, let the story gently bend. I know that every path I've walked was leading to this end, not an end of fire fading, not a curse
CJ 바이오 코어.
Hey, I wake before the noise begins, before the crowded rush in. A quiet pulse beneath my lips reminds me what this moment gives. The air is clear without demand, no heavy weight upon my hands, just open hours yet unnamed. No outcome fixed, no prize proclaimed. I used to wait for certainty to map the path completely, to know exactly where I land before I dare to stand. But life is never it never paused for me to say I'm ready now. Proceed with light, it simply asks for sight, and I step into the day, not needing guarantees, not begging fate to stay, but moving steadily. There's something strong I'm not yet knowing, and seeds beneath the soil still growing, and plans that haven't found their form but hold a quiet storm. Not chaos, not a reckless spin, but energy contained within, a promise held in subtle tone that hasn't yet been shown. I feel the stretch of what could be, not towering above me, but walking close beside my stride, inviting me to try. I won't demand a perfect sign or draw the finish line before I even take a breath or measure life by depth. And I step into the day with open hands at ease, not forcing time to sway, but bending with the breeze. The future doesn't shout my name, it doesn't blaze with sudden flame, it hums in lower, steadier ways through ordinary days. It lives in choices made with care, in risks I'm willing to declare, in saying yes when fear appears, and staying through the years. I know there will be altered plans, shifting lines and shifting sands, moments that require pause and others without cause. But I am not the fragile thread that snaps when doubt is spread. I am the woven layered seam of effort and of dream, and I step into the day without a script to read, no need to overplay what's waiting to be free. There's courage in a softer stance, in giving change a chance, in letting outcomes unfold wide without the need to hide. I used to think that bold meant loud, or standing tall above a crowd, but strength can move in quieter pace with steady lifted face. The road ahead is not a test, it's not a judge, it's not a quest to prove my worth or earn a name. It's space to play the game. I'll take the hours as they come, let progress gently hum in small advances, slight and real, that time alone can seal. And I step into the day, no backward glance to chain, no hesitation sway, no shadowed weight of pain. If something greater waits ahead, it doesn't need to be widespread, it only needs to meet me where my courage meets the air. I don't require a grand display to validate my way. I trust the rhythm in my stride and walk it open-eyed. The sky above is neither grand nor written out by hand, it's simply space enough to move and space enough to prove, not to the world or watching eyes, but to the self that never lies, that forward isn't reckless flight, it's choosing light. And I step into the day, unafraid of what may change. Whatever comes my way will find me standing range to range. And I step into the day, no backward glance to change. temptations sway, no shadowed weight of pain. If something greater waits ahead, it doesn't need to be widespread. It only waits to me where my courage meets the air. I don't require a grand display to validate my way. I trust the rhythm in my stride and walk through the night. The sky above is neither grand nor written out by hand. It's simply space enough to move and space enough to prove. Space enough to prove.
You always wore that jacket one size big. Said it made you feel like you could disappear. You tuck your hands inside and do this thing where you'd pretend that you were never here. But I could always see you every time. Where you lean against the bookstore wall, reading every cover, like the words were catching you before you'd fall. You don't move fast, but you moved at your pace, a tempo no one else could ever match. Something in the quiet of your face made me wanna be the one to catch. That's the way I remember you. Polaroids that never quite developed, and the half-told stories and the deja vu, and every song that builds but doesn't settle. The way I remember you isn't perfect and it isn't whole, but it's painted in the warmest hue, and it lives inside the center of my soul. You had opinions on the strangest things, like why the ocean sounds the way it does, or how a certain melody can sting a part of you that you forgot, because you lived like every detail had a weight, like nothing was too small to be observed, and I was just a witness to the great collection of a life that you preserved. They say the memory rewrites the scene, that nostalgia polishes the rough, but I don't think I've added any sheen. The way you were was always quiet enough. That's the way I remember you. And Polaroids that never quite develop, and the half-told stories and the deja vu, and every song that builds but doesn't settle. The way I remember you isn't perfect and it isn't whole, but it's painted in the warmest hue, and it lives inside the center of my soul. I keep thinking about that afternoon in the used record shop when you found that album with the scratched up cover and you held it up like it was treasure. You said the ones with damage always sound the best, and I never told you, but I wrote that down because I knew even then that you were teaching me something about beauty, something about how the worn out things carry the most extraordinary resonance. There is a vast distance to the frame, you're still vivid like a well-loved song. I hear your laughter folded in the rain, presence when the nights go long. You taught me how to notice what's around, to pay attention to the overlook. And every time I stop and hear a sound, I think of you and all the joy you cooked. That's the way I remember you. Polaroids quiet developed in my house. Deja vu in every song that builds but doesn't settle. The way I remember you isn't perfect and it isn't whole, but it's painted in the warmest hue and it lives inside the center of my soul. The way I remember you is the way I remember how to feel. In a world that moves too fast to notice, you taught me how to stand still. And that's the greatest thing anyone has ever done. The way I remember you is the way I remember love.
Chase the transformation, like my life depended on the change. Reinvented every season, rearranged and rearranged. Always building, always moving, always one more thing to prove. Like the woman that I was never quite enough to choose. But this evening something shifted in the space between my ribs. A sound that whispered, you don't have to do this anymore, kid. What if arriving doesn't look like anything at all? What if it's just the feeling of not needing to perform the fall? This is the quiet after the becoming, when the race is done and I'm left with who I am. No more versions, no more chasing, just the woman with open hands. This is the quiet after the becoming, and it's fuller than I thought. Not empty, just complete. Standing still for the first time on my own 2 feet. I collected certifications like armor for my doubt. Every diploma was a sentence that I'd use to drown it out. But the resume can't hold you when the kitchen light is low and you're sitting with the question of, does anybody really know the me who burns the dinner and forgets to lock the door, who talks to houseplants daily and still sleeps on the floor? What if arriving doesn't look like anything at all? What if it's just the feeling of not needing to perform the fall? This is the quiet after the becoming, when the race is done and I'm left with who I am. No more versions, no more chasing, just the woman with open hands. This is the quiet after the becoming, and it's fuller than I thought. Not empty, just complete. Standing still for the first time on my own 2 feet. I don't need another chapter to justify my name. Don't need another comeback to legitimize my frame. The woman standing here tonight with nothing left to prove is the most complete edition of a life that finally moved from doing into being, from becoming into rest. And the quiet is the loudest kind of tenderness. This is the quiet after the becoming, when the race is done and I'm left with who I am. No more versions, no more chasing, just the woman with open hands. This is the quiet after the becoming, and it's fuller than I've had. Not empty, just complete. Standing still for the first time on my Close the book on everything that used to be familiar. Put it on a shelf with all the chapters I outgrew. There's a blank page sitting open like an invitation, waiting, and my pen is full of colors that I never even knew. The apartment's full of boxes and the walls are still unpainted, but there's something in the emptiness that feels like open sky. I'm standing at the edge of something I can't name or measure, and for the first time in forever, I'm not asking myself why. Every ending has a doorway right behind it, and I'm stepping through with nothing left to prove. This is the very first page of a story only I can write. Every sentence is a chance to get it beautifully right. I'm not looking for perfection, I'm just looking for what's true. This is the very first page, and I'm dedicating it to starting new. These words are mine, the plot is open wide. This is the very first page, and I've never felt so alive. I called my mother on a Sunday, told her I was reinventing. She said, baby, you've been doing this since you were only 3. I laughed because she's right, I've always been a work in progress, but this time it feels intentional, like I'm finally being free. I threw away the list of things I thought I should have done right now. The timeline and the benchmarks and the pressure to arrive, replace them with a single question that keeps echoing inside me. What would make you proud to be inside me? Has a doorway right behind it, and I'm stepping through with nothing left to prove. This is the very first page of a story only I can write. Every sentence is a chance to get it beautifully right. I'm not looking for perfection, I'm just looking for what's true. This is the very first page, and I'm dedicating it to starting new. The ink is wet, the words are mine, the plot is open wide. This is the very first page, and I've never felt so alive. I don't need a resolution or a 5-year plan, just the willingness to stumble and the grace to try to stand. The furniture is secondhand, the coffee maker's old, but every corner of this life is mine to have and hold. I'm painting on the walls tonight with colors I adore. I'm writing myself into the life I've been wishing for, and if the chapters get untidy or the grammar goes astray, I'll keep writing, keep believing, keep turning every page. This is the very first page of a story only I can write. Every sentence is a chance to get it beautifully right. I'm not looking for perfection, I'm just looking for what's true. This is the very first page, and I'm dedicating it to starting new. The ink is wet, the words are mine, the plot is open wide. This is the very first page, and I've never felt so alive. The very first page, and I'm filling it with everything I love. The very first page, and it's all I know. This is my story now. Yeah, this is my story. The very first page. I showed up at your door with a vocabulary you couldn't read. Made you dinner with my worry. Cleaned the house with all my need. I said I love you in the folding of your shirts, in the way I memorized every detail, every hurt. but you were listening for the words I couldn't find. And I was screaming in a dialect you're blind to. We weren't broken, just bilingual in reverse. You spoke in sentences, I spoke in care that hurt. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. Wrote you novels in a silence you couldn't keep. Every gesture was a letter, every meal a verse. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. And the tragedy isn't that we didn't try, it's that we loved in parallel lines. You said it out loud in a way I couldn't trust. 3 words that landed like a beautiful and foreign gust. I needed proof in action, you needed proof in sound. And we kept delivering the right thing to the wrong, lost and found. 2 people drowning in each other's form of rain, both saying I love you, both hearing it in vain. We weren't broken, just bilingual in reverse. You spoke in sentences, I spoke in care that hurt. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. Wrote you novels in a silence you couldn't keep. Every gesture was a letter, every meal a verse. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. And the tragedy isn't that we didn't try, it's that we loved in parallel lines. Maybe love needs a translator, someone standing in between to say she means this when she's cleaning, and he means this when he speaks. But we never found the middle, and the distance grew too wide. 2 fluent lovers on the wrong side of the tide. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. Wrote you novels in a silence you couldn't keep. Every gesture was a letter, every meal a verse. I loved you in a language you didn't speak. And the tragedy isn't that we didn't try, it's that we loved in parallel lines. Parallel lines, never meeting, always close. I loved you completely in a language you never knew. The chair creaks softly beneath me as I lean back into the room. Not exhausted, not restless, just still. There were things I didn't finish, messages I didn't send, plans that shifted quietly around their edges. But the sky outside the window has already begun to dim, and I am here, breathing evenly within it. Stay right here, let the day release its grip. Let unfinished lists grow quiet. I don't need to conquer every line to know I moved. I showed up in the ways I could. I listened when it mattered. I tried, and that counts. Soft piano rests and open chords, brushes tracing gentle arcs, bass humming underneath like a pulse after dark. There were conversations handled with more patience than before. There were moments I chose calm instead of something sharp. That is growth, even if no one saw it. Stay right here, let the tension leave my shoulders, let expectation fall away. I don't measure worth by constant motion anymore. I don't need perfection to feel steady, I don't need applause to feel seen. I just need this quiet guitar brushes lightly across the edges of thought. Nothing dramatic rises, nothing overbought. There's dignity in modest days, and effort without display, knowing the world kept turning and I met it halfway. I remember when endings felt heavy, like judgment, like score. Now they feel like landing, nothing more. Stay right here, let reflection stay gentle, let memory soften its tone. I don't replay mistakes tonight, I let them rest alone. I am not behind, I am not late, I am not unfinished, I am becoming. The melody lifts just slightly, then settles back in place like a breath returning to a familiar space. I didn't solve everything, didn't change the course of time, but I moved with intention, and that feels like mine. There were small acts of courage hidden in routine, tiny decisions to remain kind, to remain clean. No spotlight follows effort, no headline marks restraint, but the quiet inside my chest feels lighter, less constrained. Stay right here until the room grows softer, until the air feels wide. I don't need the day to praise me to feel satisfied. I close my eyes for a moment, not escaping, just aware of how far I've traveled without needing fanfare. And if tomorrow acts again for presence, for care, I will rise to meet it without despair. Because tonight, in this calm, in this breath, I know what I gave, what I learned, what I held was enough for today. Before the sunlight touched the floor, your empty side still warm from yesterday. The quiet room remembers more than all the words we couldn't say. The kettle hums, the window breeze, a gentle breeze moves through the air. I trace the outline of your key still resting on the table. Maybe we were too afraid, maybe time has slipped away, but love was never meant to fade just because we lost our way. So I pour another cup of tea, let the morning stay. Even hearts that learn to cope still be the possibility. I'm not breaking, I'm just bending with the dawn. Every tear that fell last night is softer in the early sun. I'm still standing, defeated by the silence, just learning how to rest. The city moves in quiet gold, footsteps passing down below. Life continues calm and bold, teaching me to let you go. But letting go is not the same as erasing what we had. Love does not deserve the blame. The moments turning sad if someday past return to meet. If time decides to rearrange, I'll greet you with a steady heartbeat. No bitterness, no change. And if we never cross again, I'll thank the days we knew, for every laugh, for every rain, for loving someday giving life its space. Morning doesn't rush the sky, it unfolds in quiet hue. Healing doesn't ask us why, it simply pulls us through. So I gather all the pieces, place them gently back inside. Not to hide what love releases, but to carry it with pride. I'm not lonely, I'm just growing past the ache. Every goodbye I survive becomes a stronger heart to make. And somewhere in this living, between the loss and start, there's a softer kind of giving, a braver open heart. The sun has fully reached the floor. The coffee's gone, but warmth remains. I don't tremble like before, I'm steadier in the change. Goodbye was not a closing door, just a lesson wrapped in grace. And I walk into something more, with morning on my face.
Every time you walk into the room, something changes in the air. Like the world just found its tune. And I forget what took me there. I could watch you read your favorite book, lost inside a world of words. Every little glance and every look tells me things I've never heard. And I don't need the answers now, I just need this moment here with you. Let the rest of the world spin around, we got nowhere else to be. It's true, stay a little longer, let the hours fade away. We don't need a reason, we don't need a plan today. Your voice is like a melody that I could play on repeat. Stay a little longer, make this ordinary sweet. You've got coffee on your fingertips and laughter dancing in your eyes. Every story falling from your lips feels like some kind of paradise. I've been running circles all my life, chasing things I couldn't name. But sitting here beside you feels so right. And nothing's ever been the same. And I don't need the answers now, I just need this quiet space we found. Let the noise of everything fade out. You're the only one I want around. Stay a little longer, let the hours fade away. We don't need a reason, we don't need a plan today. Your voice is like a melody that I could play on repeat. Stay a little longer, make this ordinary sweet. You know, some people spend their whole lives looking for something extraordinary. But I think the real beauty is right here in the way you laugh at your own jokes, the way you hold your cup with both hands, the way you hum a song you don't remember learning. You make the simple things feel like they're more than enough. The afternoon is stretching out so slow. not at all. There's a kind of peace I've come to know just by leaning on this wall, watching shadows paint across the floor, listening to your easy sighs. I have never wanted something more than this view through half-closed eyes. Stay a little longer, let the hours fade away. We don't need a reason, we don't need a plan today. Your voice is like a melody that I could play on repeat. Stay a little longer, make this ordinary sweet. Stay a little longer, oh, just a little longer. I could stay here with you. Forever wouldn't be enough with you.
I've been speaking in a language that was never really mine, borrowing opinions from the loudest voice around, filling every silence with a comfortable distraction, terrified if I just sat down. But the noise ran out one evening and the room was finally empty, and the quiet didn't swallow me the way I thought it would. Instead it laid me open like a book I never finished, and the chapter I've been skipping was the one I misunderstood. What if everything I ran from was the thing I needed most? What if stillness is the only honest language that I know? When the noise is gone, I hear the woman underneath, the one who trades the truth for everybody else's peace. She's been waiting in the hallway of a life she didn't choose, and she's asking me to listen, really listen all the way through. What remains when the noise is gone is the only version of myself worth holding on to. There's a reputation out of always being ready, always having answers, always carrying the weight. But nobody ever asked me if the armor I was wearing was protection or a prison I'd forgotten to escape. There's a difference between standing tall and never letting go, between the strength they celebrate and the kind that breaks you slow. I've been both, and I can tell you that the hardest thing I've done is admitting that the person I performed was not one. What if everything I ran from was the thing I needed most? What if stillness is the only honest language that I know? When the noise is gone, I hear the woman underneath, the one who says the truth for everybody else's peace. She's been waiting in the hallway of a life she didn't choose, and she's asking me to listen, really listen all the way through. The noise is gone is the only version of myself worth holding on to. Sad with every feeling I've been scheduling for later, the grief I filed away, the joy I didn't trust was real. And one they spoke to me not loudly but with certainty, like old friends I'd abandoned at a table years ago. They said we never left you, we've been here inside the silence where the things that remain, and there's nowhere left to go. When the noise is gone, I hear the woman underneath, the one who trades the truth for everybody else's peace. She's been waiting in the hallway of a life she didn't choose, and she's asking me to listen, really listen all the way through. What remains when the noise is gone is the only version of myself worth holding on to. Ooh. is everything Woke up to the sound of rain against my window. Coffee getting warm between my hands. All the little worries fading into nothing. Something in the air says I don't need a plan. I've been moving fast for way too long, trying to keep up with the world that never waits. But today I'm gonna take it slow and easy. The hours find their own sweet pace. No, I don't need a reason to feel this way. Everything I want is already in this place. This is where I belong. In the quiet of the feeling when the rhythm carries on. Every breath is like a melody I'm finally learning. This is where I belong. With my feet upon the ground and my whole heart in my hands. I'm done with second guessing, I'm just here and I'm not leaving. Pages of my life are turning on their own. Every chapter writing something beautiful. I used to chase the answers with the world over reason. Now I'm letting go and finding that it's wonderful. Seasons come and pass, but I don't mind the changing. There's a kind of peace in knowing less and feeling more. I'm collecting little moments like they're treasures, building something real worth holding on to for sure. No, I don't need a reason to feel this way. Everything I want is already in this place. This is where I belong. In the quiet of the feeling when the rhythm carries on. Every breath is like a melody I'm finally learning. This is where I belong. With my feet upon the ground and my whole heart in my hands. I'm done with second guessing, I'm just here and I'm not leaving. Maybe I was looking way too far, and the answer was just my heartbeat. I was counting all the things I thought were missing, never saw the ones that made my life complete. I'm not running anymore, I'm standing still. Not because I'm stuck, because I finally feel like the ground beneath me is exactly where I'm meant to be. And that's enough for me, yeah, that's enough for me. This is where I belong. In the quiet of the feeling when the rhythm carries on. Every breath is like a melody I'm finally learning. This is where I belong. My feet upon the ground, my whole heart in my hands. I'm done with second guessing, I'm just here and I'm not leaving. Yeah, this is where I belong. I can feel it in the melody that carries on. This is where I belong. Oh, I finally understand. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. This is where I belong. I feel the quiet moving through the air, like something gentle waking every day. A breath between the night and the day, a steady light that softly finds its way. Your voice still lingers in my mind, not loud, not urgent, just a line. Every little thought I try to hold like warm in the cold. I don't need fireworks for peace or sudden storms to call it love. It's in the way you say my name, so ordinary, never tame. There's a rhythm in the way we stand. No need to rush, no grand demand, just subtle pulses underneath, the quiet promise in each breath. And I feel it rising slow and sure, not fragile, not outside our door, but we don't need much more than this small table side by side, where every doubt is set aside. Your laughter bends the moonlight, turns simple hours into bright moments wrapped in easy grace. No performance, no race. There's swing inside the way we talk, a softened step inside our walk. We move like music, half unheard, between the silence and the word. And I feel it rising, slow and sure, not fragile, not unsure. Something steady, something true, growing stronger next to you. We don't need perfect symmetry or grand design or destiny, just conversations drifting wide and honest feelings we don't hide. If life decides to test the ground, we'll lean in close, not back away. No heavy fear, no trembling silence, calm that carries us each day. I never thought that depth could feel so effortless and so real, like something simple, yet strong enough to always stay there. No shadow pulling at the seams, no fading echo of old dreams, only this expanding space where hope and comfort interlace. And I feel it rising, slow and sure, not fragile, not unsure. Something steady, something true, growing stronger next to you. Stay right here, don't disappear. This closeness feels so clear, not loud, not wild, not extreme, just balanced like a living dream. Let time move at its quiet pace. We'll meet it face to open face, with steady hands and open sight, turning every shade to light. I feel the quiet moving through the air, and now I know it's always there. Not waiting far beyond the view, but building softly me.
Before the sun is ready, a pale blue line across the sky. I lean against the kitchen counter, watching morning pass us by. You're resting and slow breathing, still halfway lost inside a dream. There's something sacred in the silence, in the space between the steam. I used to wake with racing questions, deadlines pressing at my chest. Now the only thing that matters is the rhythm of your rest. Your footsteps softly cross the hardwood, barren, unafraid of sound. You smile like you already know, this is where my heart is found. No dramatic declarations, no orchestra in the air, just the fragile clink of porcelain, your fingers in my hair. And I have traveled through the noise of crowded rooms and flashing lights, but none of it could hold a candle to these unguarded mornings bright. I don't need a perfect future, painted bold in golden flame. If I can sit across from you and slowly say your name. I never told you this, but the way you stay without asking for applause is the reason I am brave. There's a kindness in your presence that doesn't try to prove. It settles like a steady chord with nothing left to lose. The window lets a ribbon through, it stretches on the floor, touching everything we are and nothing more. You trace circles on the table, absent-minded, soft and light, talking about the smallest things like they're treasures in plain sight. And I am listening differently, not just to what you say, but to the pauses in between where meaning likes to stay. If the world outside is restless, if it pulls us into speed, we have built a quiet harbor in this gentle cup of tea. Love doesn't always sparkle, it doesn't have to shine. Sometimes it's simply showing up again and every time. I thought love was a storm, was something wild and overwhelming, but maybe it's closer to gravity. Something steady, something that keeps you near. Your laughter fills this morning, not loud but full and round, like brush drums under piano, a warm and steady sound. The bass line of your breathing moves easy through the day. I find myself aligning to the quiet way you stay. You don't rush the conversation, you don't compete with it. You let the silence settle and meet me gently there. If I ever lose direction, if I start to drift away, just place your hand inside of mine, the quiet way you stay. No need for crowded fireworks or promises too tall. We've learned the art of listening, and that has been our all. The city's slowly waking, cars beginning to appear, but inside this fragile moment there is nothing I would fear. I never thought that comfort could feel this alive, that peace could carry passion without needing to strive. And if one day the seasons shift the colors that we see, I will remember mornings where you chose to sit with me. Not because you had to, not because it was required, but because you wanted to build something rare. The coffee cools between us, unfinished but just right. We talk about the future like it's soft and held in light. I don't need a louder story or a stage beneath my feet. If I can start each morning with your heartbeat close to me. You don't chase attention, you don't demand display, you simply lean a little closer in the quiet way you stay. And that is more than thunder, more than spectacle or flame. It's the gentle kind of courage that forever feels the same. So let the day come slowly, let the hours find their pace. We have this tender beginning in our ordinary space. The kettle hums again, the sky is fully awake, and I am exactly where I'm meant to be, in the quiet way you stay. In the quiet way you stay.
Learn to say I'm fine before I learn my name. Learn to read the room before I read a page. They taught me how to listen, how to nod, and how to smile, but nobody sat me down and said feel this for a while. So I stored it all away in a drawer behind my ribs, locked it with a sentence that I told myself as a kid. What if feeling everything was never the disease? What if I was fluent in a language nobody sees? This is the language nobody taught me how to speak, the one that lives between my chest and my cheek. It doesn't follow grammar, doesn't care about the rules. This is the language nobody taught me, but I've been speaking it since before I knew. And I'm done translating myself into something easier for you. like kitchen tables and apologize for tears. Love with both hands open and apologize for years. Felt the weight of every room before a word was said. Carry conversations people didn't know they had. They called it being sensitive, like it was something to outgrow. But I think the ones who feel it all are the ones who really know. What if feeling everything was never the disease? What if I was fluent in a language nobody sees? This is the language nobody taught me how to speak. The one that lives between my chest and my cheek. It doesn't follow down, it doesn't care about the rules. This is the language nobody taught me, but I've been speaking it since before I knew. And I'm done translating myself into something easier for you. Not too much, I'm just uncensored now. Not too intense, I just refuse to bow to the version of me that kept it all inside. This is my vocabulary and I'm done trying to hide. This is the language nobody taught me how to speak. The one that lives between my chest and my cheek. It doesn't follow grammar, doesn't care about the rules. This is the language nobody taught me, but I've been speaking it since before I knew. And I'm done translating myself into something easier for you. I speak it fluently now, every syllable mine. The language nobody taught me was the truest one I'll find. You sit across from me, standing between our hands. Porcelain warmth, quiet clatter. The city stretching into itself. I watch the way you breathe, like you're trying not to rush the day. There's something gentle in your shoulder, something unspoken but safe. I didn't know silence could feel this full. Didn't know stillness could move like this. Stay right here. Let the clock forget its numbers. Let the world hum somewhere far away. We don't need answers yet. Just this table, this chair, and the space between our fingers. I like the way you look at me, as if everything already makes sense. I like that you don't fill the quiet, you let it breathe. Soft piano leaning into corners, brushes tracing circles in the air. Your laugh barely above a whisper, landing softly in my chest. There's no hurt in your eyes, no thunder rolling through your words. Just warmth that settles slowly, like sugar dissolving in a cup. And I feel something steady forming. Not fireworks, not a storm, just a rhythm we can lean on. Stay right here. Let the minutes open gently. Let the noise drift out the door. We don't need promises, just this warmth and the sound of you saying my name. If this is how the day can begin, I don't need it louder, I don't need it brighter, I just need it true. Your fingers trace the rim of conversations we haven't had. I wonder what you're holding back, and I don't mind waiting. There's courage and slow affection in choosing not to run ahead, in letting every glance unfold without right here. Let the air grow softer. Let our breathing find one line. No grand declaration, no dramatic things, just closeness, simple and real. Maybe love isn't lightning. Maybe it's this: a table, two cups, and a feeling that stays. Soft bass humming underneath, acoustic strings brushing light. Lean into the quiet, not afraid of what it means, because sometimes the strongest things are the ones that move slowly. So stay, not forever, just long enough for this moment to become.
Yeah. Pack the bag and nothing much inside. Just a couple records and my restless pride. Caught a train I hadn't planned to take. Left behind the noise for my own sake. Every town I pass becomes a scene, painted in a color I have never seen. Strangers wave like they already know. Something in my heart I'm scared to show. And maybe I've been holding on too tight to a version of myself that doesn't fit. Maybe all I needed was tonight. Finally let go of all of it. Wherever this road goes, I'm following the feeling in my bones. No map, no destination set in stone. There's the wind and the unknown. Wherever this road goes, I'll find a place where I can breathe alone. A little corner of the world to call my own. Wherever this road goes. Stop wide. Watch the water carry someone else's tide. Wrote your name in letters on the sand, knowing that the waves won't understand. Found a diner tucked behind the trees. Ordered something warm and let my shoulders ease. Lady at the counter poured me twice. Said you look like you could use something nice. And maybe there's no ending to this line. Maybe every crossroad leads somewhere. Maybe I've been searching all this time for a version of the world that doesn't care. Wherever this road goes, I'm following the feeling in my bones. No map, no destination set in stone. Just the wind and the unknown. Wherever this road goes, I find a place where I can breathe alone. A little corner of the world to call my own. Wherever this road goes.
I used to think that freedom meant escaping, running from the places that reminded me of who I was. But somewhere between the third city and the fourth goodbye, I realized freedom isn't running from anything. It's learning how to stay open, even when you don't know what's coming next. And that's the most peaceful thing I've ever felt.
Now the evening settles soft and low, and I'm I'm sitting where the quiet rivers flow. Got no phone, no schedule, and no plans. Just the feeling of the earth beneath my hands. There's a kind of rhythm in this pace, something you can find in any other place. Every step I'm getting closer to, not a place, but something honest, something true. Wherever this road goes, I'm following the feeling in my bones. No map, no destination set in stone. There's the wind in the unknown. Wherever this road goes, I find a place where I can breathe alone. A little corner of the world to call my own. Wherever this road goes, wherever it goes, oh, wherever it leads, I'll be alright. I'll be just fine. Wherever this road goes, I'm already home.
I rehearsed 100 versions of the things I wanna say. Edited every feeling till it fit inside of me. But truth has rough edges, it doesn't come in order. I'm tired of arranging it to sound like someone tame. You deserve the unrevised, the version with no filter. I've been giving you the highlights when the full film is much deeper. It's not the saying that scares me, it's the staying after when you see the whole of someone and you're still standing there. The weight of being honest with you lives inside my chest, heavier than hiding, but it puts me more at rest. I'm handing you the pieces I've never shown to anyone. The weight of being honest with you might just set me free. If you can hold this version, then you're really holding me. I've loved before in costumes, in the safety of performance. Played the easy one, who would never ask for more. But you sit across the table like you're waiting for the real thing. And I realize I've been standing at the edge of my own door. What happens if I tell you that I'm terrified of needing that? The closer someone gets, the more I calculate the loss. It's not the saying that scares me, it's the staying after when you've seen the whole of someone and you're still standing there. The weight of being honest with you lives inside my chest, heavier than hiding, but it puts me more at rest. I'm handing you the pieces I've never shown to anyone. The weight of being honest with you might just set me free. If you can hold this version, then you're really holding me. Oh, so here it is, the woman underneath the composure, the one who cries in parking lots and overthinks her worth, who keeps a distance, not because she doesn't love you, but because she loves you more than anything she's felt on earth. And that's what terrifies me more than any silence. The weight of being honest with you lives inside my chest, heavier than hiding, but it puts me more at rest. I'm handing you the pieces I've never shown to anyone. The weight of being honest That's all I ever wanted, to be held honestly. I wasn't looking for a reason to believe again, and my walls built high enough to keep the whole world out. Then you walked in like a conversation I didn't expect, and suddenly my careful silence turned itself around. You didn't try to fix me or to fill the empty spaces. You just sat beside me like you knew that it was fine. And somehow you're in the ordinary. In your eyes I've been waiting for exactly your design. Funny how the things we need the most show up when we're done, pretending we don't. You're closer than I think I ever knew, like a favorite song to play before I found the tune. Every conversation landing somewhere warm and true. You're closer than I think I ever knew, and now I'm standing in the middle of a feeling I can't lose. Said everything makes sense when I'm next to you. We don't need the big romantic gestures or the fireworks. Just your voice across the table is enough to make me stay. You remember little details that I barely even mention, and you hold them like they matter in the sweetest kind of way. There's a rhythm to the way we move around each other. We never practice, but we somehow always land. And I don't know what I did to deserve this kind of comfort, but I'm grateful for the way you always seem to understand. Funny how the things we need the most show up when we're done, pretending we don't. You were closer than I think I ever knew, like a favorite song to play before I found the tune. Every conversation landed somewhere warm and true. You were closer than I think I ever knew, and now I'm standing in the middle of a feeling I can't lose. Said everything makes sense when I'm next to you. I used to think that love was something loud and overwhelming, something you had to chase until you couldn't breathe. But here we are in all this gentle understanding, and it's more than I imagined it could be. You're the calm inside the chaos and the laughter after silence. You're the hand I reach for when the evening settles in. I never thought that easy could feel so full of meaning, but with you I keep discovering again and again. You were closer than I think I ever knew, like a favorite song to play before I found the tune. Every conversation landed somewhere warm and true. You were closer than I think I ever knew, and now I'm standing in the middle of a feeling I can't lose. Everything makes sense when I'm next to you. Oh, you are always closer, closer than I think I ever knew. Everything makes sense. Everything falls into place with you. Closer than I ever knew. I used to lower what I felt inside, keep every color soft and pacified. Careful not to take too much space, careful not to show it on my face. I'd measure every word before it came, afraid of stepping wrong inside the frame. Trying to be easy to embrace, trying to disappear without a trace. But something shifted quietly one day, no thunder rolling in to clear the way, just a steady pulse beneath my skin, saying I don't have to fold to fit it in. I don't need a shrink to be adored, I don't need approval to be heard. There's a rhythm in my natural sound, and I'm finally letting it resound. And now my voice stays, it doesn't fade away. It rises calm and sure, it knows what it's here for. I'm not reaching over anyone, not racing just to prove I've won. simple truth that feels both grounded and uncouth. Yeah, there's power in a steady tone and claiming what has always been known. Not loud, not sharp, not forced to blaze, just present in 1,000 ways. I used to think that strength was steel, something rigid you could feel. But now I see it's softer lines, like steady roots beneath the vines. It's in the way I meet your eyes, without disguises or replies, without adjusting every part to fit inside a smaller heart. And now my voice stays, it doesn't bend or sway, it moves with honest air, completely open, bare. I'm not reaching over anyone, not racing just to prove I've won. I'm breathing in my natural tone and letting it be fully known. There were days I held my breath, as if expression met some threat, as if my truth would tip the scale and cause the fragile piece to fail. But peace was never built on that, on holding back and shrinking flat. Real balance doesn't need disguise, it lives where fearless softness lies. So here I am without defense, without rehearsed intelligence, just clarity inside my chest. No need to overthink the rest. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear it in the quiet stuff. Not shouting from a distant stage, but slowly turning page. And now my voice stays, it settles in its place. Not searching for escape, not changing shape to shape. I'm not pushing anyone aside, there's room for all of us inside. But I won't dim what I can give to make it easier to live. This is the fire burning wild, it's not rebellion running style. It's something deeper, something clear, a constant presence always here. I feel it when I speak your name, it doesn't tremble, doesn't strain. It carries warmth without demand, like open sky across the land. Now my voice stays, it doesn't drift away, it rises calm and sure. It knows what it's here for, no echo lost in crowded air, no quiet swallowed by despair. It stands with ease, it stands with grace, it takes its rightful gentle space. I used to lower what I felt inside, but now I let it open wide. Not sharp, not harsh, not overplayed, just fully present, unafraid.
I used to wake up counting worries like they were coins beside my bed. A small unfinished sentence echoed loudly in my head. The mirror wasn't very friendly, it showed me someone unsure, a version trying hard to stand but never feeling sure. Then you walked into the picture, now with rescue in your eyes. Just a steady kind of presence, no performance, no disguise. You asked me simple questions, like what I used to love before the noise was ever loud enough. I couldn't answer right away, I had to think it through. When was the last time I felt light before I ever knew you? You didn't rush the silence, let it take its space, like brush drums under piano, holding time with grace. And slowly I remember things I left behind, a song I wrote at 17, a dream I used to find. I had buried parts of me under schedules and demands. You just listen carefully without trying to command. You never tried to fix me, never drew a plan. You simply said, I think you're stronger than you understand. There was something in the way you said it, not dramatic, not intense, just quiet conviction with solid evidence. You pointed out the moments I thought didn't count, the nights I kept on going when giving up was loud. You saw the small endurance, discipline, and somehow through your patience I could see it too again. The cafe by the corner, the table near the glass. You spoke about the future like it wasn't built on past. You didn't promise perfection, you didn't swear forever. And you said, let's take today together. And that was new to me, because I used to chase a version of tomorrow that never showed its face. Now mornings feel different, they stretch instead of press. There's room inside my breathing, there's space inside my chest. I forgot my own name once, not the letters, but the meaning. You reminded me who I was becoming. The piano in the background moves soft and understated, like the way you speak to me, calm and uninflated. The bass line feels like courage, steady, low and warm, not loud enough to tremble, strong enough to fall. You never tried to shine by standing over me. You stood right by my side and let me clearly see that I was never broken, just tired and misaligned. That confidence returns when someone takes their time. If I ever start to doubt, old thoughts reappear. I replay the way you spoke, so simple and so clear. You said you don't have to outrun everyone, you don't have to be ahead, you just have to keep your word to the voice inside your head that stayed with me for days. It softened how I move, I stopped competing with myself, with nothing left to prove. Now when the sunlight reaches across the wooden floor, I feel like I'm behind, less than I was before. There's gratitude in smallness, there's strength in being slow, there's dignity in learning you're allowed to grow. I thought I needed louder wins to finally feel complete, but you showed me steady steps or victories and repeat. We talk about the future like it's open and wide, not something to survive, but something to reside. And maybe love is partly this, not fireworks or fun, but someone who reminds you of your forgotten name. The morning hums around us, city coming into view, and I don't feel like disappearing when I'm sitting here with you. I know I'll have hard seasons, I know the road won't bend, but I won't lose myself again the way I did back then. Because now I hear it clearly in the rhythm of the day. The voice that once was buried has finally found its way. And if I ever wander too far into the noise, I'll remember who I am in the steadiness of your voice.
There's a version of my life behind a door I haven't tried. I keep walking past the alley, pretending I'm not terrified. What if the room is bigger than the hallway I call home? What if stepping through it means I'll never fit back in these bones? I've measured all the risks, counted every way to fall, but I never stop to ask, what if I don't fall at all? The door is not the enemy, the staying is the cost. What if the life I'm protecting is the one I've already lost? There are rooms I haven't entered yet, lives I haven't worn, steps I haven't met. Maybe what I'm guarding isn't safety, it's regret. There are rooms I haven't entered yet, and I can feel them pulling like a promise or a debt. It's time I turn the handle on the life I haven't lived yet. I watched my sister leap into a country she can't spell. She called me from a payphone saying fear is just a shell. You crack it and beneath it there's a woman wanting more. I hung up and I stared at my familiar kitchen floor, and something in the tiles looked different than before. Like even they were asking, what are you still waiting for? The door is not the enemy, the staying is the cost. What if the life I'm protecting is the one I've already lost? There are rooms I haven't entered yet, lives I haven't worn, steps I haven't met. Maybe what I'm guarding isn't safety, it's regret. There are rooms I haven't entered yet, and I can feel them pulling like a promise or a debt. It's time I turn the handle on the life I haven't lived yet. Ooh, ooh, ooh. One foot, then another, that's the whole technique. Not a running start, not a perfect week, just the quiet courage of a woman at a door deciding she deserves whatever's waiting on the other floor. There are rooms I haven't entered yet, lives I haven't worn, steps I haven't met. Maybe what I'm guarding isn't safety, it's regret. There are rooms I haven't entered yet, and I can feel them pulling like a promise or a debt. It's time I turn the handle on the life I haven't lived yet. I'm turning the handle now, I'm stepping through the rooms I haven't entered. We're waiting for me to. I woke up before the moon was ready, shadows still resting on the wall. There's a softness in the unfinished hours before the world begins to call. I stretch into the quiet, let the air settle in my lungs. There's something sacred in this stillness when no one asks me to be strong. I say my name out loud just to hear how it feels today. Not the version they expect, not the polished one on display. Just me, unfiltered, steady, standing in my own skin. Stay with me now, before the noise rushes in, before the deadlines, before the comparisons begin. Let